Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Joseph Martin. Hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel and hit that bell icon to receive notifications. Let's get right to it. Black people, we got to stop thinking that every time something doesn't go how we want it to go or how we think it should go, it's racism. We got to stop it because now we got white people doing it too. But before I get into Skip Bayless, I want to tell you a story. Black man been with his white wife for 5 years. She leave him. He like, oh my gosh. Oh, what's going on? He call his homeboy. He say, hey man, I knew it. He said, what did you know? I knew Susan was racist, man. I knew it. What are you talking about? She left me, man. She left me. She left you? Susan been with you for 5 years, man. You think she left you because she racist? 5 years or 5 days, man. You know we can't trust these white people. So you think you cheating on her ain't got nothing to do with it. Man, she forgave me for when I cheated on her with her sister 3 times. Man, you supposed to be my homeboy. You sound like a house slave. I can't trust you neither. What is the moral of this story? Everything is not racism, and racism is not everything. Let me make this extremely clear. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that racism is not the only reason something happens. If this is your attitude, it's going to create problems for you in your life. And here's why. Everything looks like a nail to a hammer. I said everything looks like a nail to a hammer. You got to put some more tools in your toolbox, man. Sometimes you're going to need a measuring tape, a screwdriver, a drill, a saw. You need different tools for different problems. Let's take a look at what Skip Bayless had to say about the Shedeur Sanders situation. Now, right out the gate, I want y'all to know I think Skip crazy.
I have never seen anything in my almost 50 years of covering the National Football League like what the National Football League just did to Shedeur Sanders.
Victim.
Again, I first guessed all of this. I said before last college football season that Shedeur should go number 1 overall, 1-2, or with Travis Hunter 2-1, depending on whether the team drafting first needed a quarterback.
That sounds dumb. He's claiming that he made this prediction a year before a whole season of football was played in college. I just want to point that out. Don't forget that.
And obviously, Tennessee needs a quarterback. Tennessee made, I'm going to say it one last time, a monumental mistake taking Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders. I'm dug in. I won't flinch on that one. Again, the great Mel Kiper, my guest last week on Skip One-on-One.
The great Mel Kiper, not just
ranked
Mel.
Shedeur Sanders 5th overall on his big board and Cam Ward 6th.
Okay.
But now to the guts of this story. I believe the turning point, the flashpoint, the point of no return for Shedeur Sanders came when his father, Deion, did an interview on Dan Patrick's show
his dad did
at the Media Center on Radio Row during Super Bowl week, last Super Bowl week in New Orleans. This happened on February the 7th.
Okay.
Dan Patrick asked Deion if there were NFL teams he didn't want his son to play for.
Wow. Okay.
And Deion answered, and I quote, "There's a lot of teams I preferred he didn't play for." That's like saying, aren't there teams you don't want to watch that you just hit the clicker on? You're right. He's talking to Dan. There's teams I didn't want to play for, so why would I want my kids? Come on, man. I'm a dad. I'm a real dad that has a lot of information about the NFL.
Okay.
I know some folks who know some folks who know some folks in the NFL. And I know what's behind the curtain. So definitely I'm going to lead them in the right direction, said Deion of both of his sons to Dan Patrick on February the 7th in New Orleans before the Super Bowl.
And all the teams are seeing this, that Deion has said publicly, he don't want his son to play for certain teams. Don't forget this, okay?
Now, of course, when it came to Shedeur, that certainly suggested that Deion would orchestrate where his quarterback son was drafted, would engineer it the way Archie Manning once navigated his son from the Chargers to the Giants by forcing a trade. I'm sure you remember. And I, for one, had absolutely no problem with Deion saying that publicly because his son is that valuable.
All right, let's break down what Skip just said. Manipulation tactic number 1, time. He talked about how long he's been doing this. I've been doing this a long time. So I know, or I've never seen, which insinuates 2 things. I know, and this doesn't happen. Never mind the fact. It just did. Okay? It just happened. He begins by admitting that opinion began with a guess, which is a prediction of where he thought Shedeur Sanders should be drafted a year ago before he even played his second season in Colorado. A lot of stuff can transpire between when he made this guess and when Shedeur actually got drafted. He supported his opinion with someone else's opinion, not facts, and called him not Mel Kiper, but the great Mel Kiper, which is manipulation tactic number 2, alluding to say he has to know what he's talking about because he's great. Never mind the fact that he got it wrong this time because he's great. And Mel Kiper predicted that Cam Ward would go 6th overall and Shedeur would go 5th overall. Sounds like Mr. Great Mel Kiper got not one thing wrong, but 2 things wrong, because neither one of these players went where he predicted they should go. And let's discuss what Skip said was a quote from an interview Deion Sanders had. Does that really seem like a smart thing to do for a parent whose child is heading into the NFL draft to say in a public interview, there's teams I don't want him to play for, which translate to there's teams I don't want to draft him? Now, that was a vague statement, so none of these 32 teams know which or what team that is that Deion Sanders doesn't want his child to go to. Now, I get it. Deion Sanders has played in the NFL, so he has experience and connections in it. But I think it would have been a wiser decision to have kept how he felt about where his son got drafted to himself. Skip said he supports this idea that Deion Sanders should have said this publicly. He said he should have said it. It was, in fact, teams in the NFL that he didn't want his sons to play for. Yes, Shedeur and Shiloh Sanders. Shiloh didn't even get drafted. He was signed as a free agent to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on April 26. Skip Bayless also calls this public statement Deion made a turning point, admitting that this potentially has some effect on the evaluation process for his sons. Let's continue.
The phone lines were burning, just burning and burning and burning up around the league. I just hear it now. Shakes
It's
me to my
all in his
bones.
head.
See, the kid's uncoachable. Like father, like son. Deion spoiled him rotten. No way you want this kid as the face of your franchise. Blah, 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 blah. The NFL that I've known for almost 50 years operates on sheep think. I've said this many times. So many people I've gotten to know very well, who ran or now still run drafts for teams, are just not very smart. They're all Peter Principle products, not very perceptive. They're prone to hearing a little dirt and taking it right to heart. So many idiots running drafts out there. They just think like sheep. They run scared. Okay, they actually read and value all the mock drafts by people who know less than they know.
Wow.
Because they don't know.
Oh my gosh. So now the whole NFL draft is ran by idiots who don't know what they're doing, and they listen to people who know less than they know. What? If the whole NFL, all 32 teams, drafts are being ran by idiots, why are you surprised that they made any bad draft selections? Not just Shedeur Sanders. See, this is why I think he's crazy. But there's more.
Shedeur has greatness flowing through his veins.
Okay.
What am I missing here?
What are you missing?
I had no idea, no earthly idea that
None
starting
whatsoever.
Thursday night,
all these years you've been doing this,
and then
no
all
idea.
through Friday night, the NFL was dead set on teaching Deion a lesson.
Oh, wow. Conspiracy.
Tennessee never even considered Shedeur. How did they get away with that? Neither did Cleveland, which passed on them the first 6 times it had a chance to draft Shedeur Sanders.
He just said that the NFL was dead set on teaching Deion a lesson. So now they're not idiots. All 32 teams are working in unison to send a message to a prospect's father. And the Tennessee Titans never considered Shedeur Sanders. This perspective is wild. Skip's take on this seems void of all reason or logic. How does a team not picking a player automatically mean they never considered picking them? Them not picking them only proves they didn't pick them. It doesn't mean they didn't consider it. 3 days before the video of the clips we've been watching so far was released, Skip Bayless posted this video where he brings up racism.
I don't know what you want to call this. Shedeur and his father got blackballed, or if you want to call it whiteballed, call it whiteballed. Whatever it was,
Whiteball.
Balled out. They got voted out. It's like a secret memo.
Crazy
was
business.
distributed. Don't take him. Let's teach him a lesson. Let's teach Deion a lesson. You can't act like that. It's got to be personal because it cannot be about football.
Really?
If we're just doing football, and my friend Mel Kiper has been doing this.
Oh, the great Mel Kiper again, guys.
If we're doing football, Mel Kiper, who's no fool, had Shedeur Sanders ranked 5th overall on his big board, 1 notch ahead of Cam Ward.
And so remember we talked earlier about he is upset they was wrong, ain't he? He's not stupid. He's the great Mel Kiper. And I've been doing this 50 years and he been doing this a long time and blah, blah, boy. He is upset.
I had him first. So if it's not football, what is it? Are there racial undertones here? Racist undertones? You be the judge. Racism is so hard to sort of grasp and prove. And
so why you bring it up?
It just stinks. It smells of racist undertones of too many white people in charge in this league who just roll their eyes at both father and son at Colorado. I think it's personal because I think they said, we're going to teach Deion a lesson because you can't have a DJ in the locker room before games and at halftime.
Why would they
I think
care
they
about
said,
that?
let's teach the father a lesson that you can't let the kid make $3 million a year in college football and drive 3 or 4 different exotic cars and drape himself with all kinds of NFL style high-pick jewelry, superstar jewelry. You can't let him tap his watch. It's my time. Hey,
It's my time. Skip is crazy. Skip is playing right into the narrative of anybody that'll buy it. He's selling it. He's selling everything. If you'll buy it, he's selling it. Skip, oh my gosh.
I'm here to tell you, none of that matters. If you can play, you can play. Neon Deion was as brash and arrogant as you could get. Mm-hmm. But he worked hard at his craft, and he was the greatest cornerback ever, and he backed it up. Nobody ever backed up brash and arrogant more than Deion Sanders backed it up.
Including
on the football field, on the baseball field at the highest level, on the track and field at the
and it was
highest
a different
level.
position.
Greatest athlete I ever saw was Deion Sanders. Deion is not a
The mindsets of those two positions are different. So let's talk about that real quick. Cornerback, you have to stop one player from catching the ball. A quarterback, which is Shedeur Sanders, you have to make sure that you get the ball to the right player. You have multiple players you need to get this ball to. And you got to make sure that in the process of you doing that, you don't give the ball to the other team. Those positions have different goals. I just want to point that out. So Deion's attitude was a little bit more controlled because he only had to deal with his job of that one person. Quarterback, you're dealing with multiple people. You got to have relationships with multiple people to be able to be on the same page to get that ball from you to them. Keep that in mind.
detriment to his son. He is an all-time positive. Greatness flows through this kid's veins. He's it. He's a winner. He's a leader.
The position that Deion Sanders played, I left out something about the job of a cornerback. You don't just stop one player from catching the ball. You try to catch the ball yourself and create a turnover with an interception. Now, back to Mr. Skip Bayless in this clip. First, I want you to notice how upset he is. Look how mad this man is in this video, reminding us of how long him and the great Mel Kiper have been doing this and how they're both friends. These guys make a living making predictions and giving their opinions. When they get an important pick extremely wrong, this makes them look like they don't have any idea what they're talking about. So some of this is ego with these pundits, but the majority of it is about money. You'll see this the more you watch this channel about how everything you wouldn't even consider leads back to money when you look at it, when you dive deep into it. And if any of these sports analysts had predicted Shedeur to go in the 5th round, their stock would have shot up. It would have shot up. And they'd be getting paid like crazy for interviews about this prediction. But because they didn't, and because of how bad they got this important pick wrong, they have to blame somebody. Because if they don't, their audience would realize, hey, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm not listening to him anymore. So this is damage control for the pundits or professional sports analysts, if you will. Sports betting is over $100 billion business. Billion with a B. And in the United States, American football, the NFL is the #1 sport that people bet on. So this isn't just about Shedeur Sanders and where he got picked. It's about these so-called professionals looking stupid for not even coming close to getting this prediction right. Regardless of where they thought he should have gone, which was 1st or 5th overall, the fact is he didn't. He fell all the way into the 5th round where none of the pundits predicted. Because he failed, there has to be a reason, which I would agree with. But if I was a betting man, I wouldn't put my money on it being racism. Remember, everything looks like a nail to a hammer. Another thing about having an attitude or perspective of everything dealing with a black person not getting favorable results is racist. It makes it easy for people to manipulate you and get you upset. Now you're all emotional and lashing out because you think the problem is dealing with something you don't have control over when it is something you control, but you're not even working on it. So I wanted to use this Shedeur Sanders situation as a teaching moment to show you the power of looking at numbers and having various skills in your toolbox. If we look at the entire NFL organization as being the big bad white man holding us brothers back to begin with, then it's easy to buy into this narrative that because Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders are both talented and successful black men, they're being mistreated because the white man hates to see this. So the entire NFL wants to make an example out of them and hold Shedeur back. The first thing we're going to do is look for some data to see for ourselves if it supports this claim of racism. When I say data, we're going to find us some numbers to look at. A few years ago, I developed the skill of creating workbooks in Microsoft Excel. when I was real tough in the stock market. And the first thing I learned once I got the hang of this was you can use this skill set for any and everything because numbers are everywhere. And when you know what the numbers mean and how to read them, it's damn near impossible for somebody to lie to you. What happened to Shedeur Sanders was not racism, in my opinion. And here's why. Numbers don't lie. We're going to educate ourselves on how the NFL draft works. There's some exceptions to this, but we're going to keep it simple. There are 7 rounds in the NFL draft, and each of the 32 teams get 1 pick. Sometimes those teams trade their picks and don't pick in a round, or they have multiple picks in a single round. So let's go to my workbook, and we're going to find out if any of the 32 teams didn't pick any players in the first round of the draft. All right, so here's my NFL Draft Workbook for 2025, and this is the first round. And we can see the number of picks was 32 in the first round. So what we're trying to find out is what teams didn't pick in the first round. And right over here in column K and L, we know that the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams had no picks in the first round. And the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons, they had 2 extra picks in the first round. So New York Giants had the 3rd and the 25th pick overall, and the Atlanta Falcons had the 15th and 26th pick overall. So what we're looking for now, we're going to go to the second round and see when the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams picked for the first time. So right here on this sheet, we need to go down this list. So selection 1, we got selection 2. Okay, so in the second round, the 34th pick overall, right here, we got the Houston Texans selecting number 34. Now we need to find out when the Rams picked. So if we come down right here, the Los Angeles Rams picked 46 overall. So it took 46 picks before every team had an opportunity to make a selection in the draft. So let's keep that in mind. Let's go back. 46 players were selected before all 32 NFL teams picked at least once, meaning some teams passed on Shedeur Sanders twice at this point. Now, how many of those players were black? 33, and that was 72% of the 46 picks. 10 were white at 22%, and everybody else, we have them classified as others. 3 picks at 7%. Out of those 46 picks, where all 32 teams had taken at least 1 player, 3 of them were of the quarterback position. The number 1 pick of the draft, the number 1 overall pick was Cameron Ward, a quarterback out of Miami, to the Tennessee Titans, and he was black. Out of everyone that I've seen crying racism, Skip was the only one saying Shedeur was better than the number 1 pick. The argument is he was a victim of racism because he should have been drafted earlier. There's no way he should have fallen to the 5th round. Let's look a little deeper at these numbers. We're looking at numbers. Let's find out where Shedeur Sanders got picked to find out how many players went before he did. All right, so here we go. This is the 5th round of the draft. So let's see how many picks was in the 5th round. Right here, number of picks, 38. All right, now we need to find where Shedeur Sanders got picked. Scroll down, we looking for Shedeur. Right there, there we go, Shedeur Sanders. He was drafted number 144th overall in the draft. He got drafted number 6, the 6th pick in the 5th round. So that means 143 players were drafted before Shedeur Sanders. Out of those players, how many were black? 113. 79% of those picks. 24 were white at 17%, and others were 4 picks of the remaining 4%. Based on these numbers, it seems like white people have a stronger case for racism in the NFL than black people. But those of us that have enough understanding about how this business works knows that the NFL is not picking players based off ethnicity. These teams, 32 organizations, are picking players who they believe give them the best chance to win games, which generates profits, and profits is money. The only race they're concerned with is green, the quickest way to get to the bag. Here's a couple more numbers you may not be aware of. 16 quarterbacks who started for teams in the NFL last season were black. Since the NFL has 32 teams, that means as long as none of those teams started more than one black quarterback during the season, half of the NFL had black quarterbacks. Two of those black quarterbacks were Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs and Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, who both made it to the Super Bowl. So if he didn't fall because of racism, then why did it take him so long to get drafted? Before we get into my take on this, I want you to hear what Skip Bayless said when he brought up Tom Brady to support his argument.
I hate to say this, but even Tom Brady's team passed on Shedeur at 6. Reportedly, Brady was involved in the Raiders' draft decisions. Obviously, Pete Carroll, their new head coach, wanted his guy from Seattle, Geno Smith, so they acquired Geno. I get that, but
another black
Brady did mentor and did help coach Shedeur beginning in high school.
So he should
I don't know.
Shedeur.
Maybe GOAT Brady will prove to be just as bad at judging talent as GOAT Jordan was as GM in Charlotte. And I do remind you that John Elway, pretty great quarterback, could pick his nose better than he picked quarterbacks as Broncos GM. And as my man Mel Kiper said on ESPN, the NFL has always been clueless about picking quarterbacks. It has.
Okay.
See the greatest quarterback ever, Brady, going in the 6th round. See the 1A greatest, Joe Montana, going in the 3rd round. See two-time MVP Lamar Jackson lasting to the final pick of the 1st round, as well as Dan Marino, probably the greatest thrower of the football ever, going 27th overall. But this was different.
It's different.
This was personal.
Personal.
This was shameful. This was a black eye for the NFL, which basically blackballed Shedeur Sanders.
Wow. Skip is a piece of work. I'm trying to tell you. If the NFL has always been bad at picking quarterbacks, why is he so surprised if this is them just doing what they always do? This man is talking out of both sides of his mouth. Now this was personal, and Shedeur Sanders was blackballed by the entire NFL. If he was blackballed, he never would have gotten drafted at all. So he wasn't blackballed. Nobody always gets it right. Some of the greatest players in all positions have been drafted in late rounds, just like some of the worst players in all positions have been drafted in early rounds. Arguably, the greatest quarterback of all time, who he brought up, is Tom Brady. He was selected in the 2000 NFL Draft, 199th overall in the 6th round. And nobody said it was racism. The reason could be the same reason Shedeur fell, which was teams didn't believe he gave them the best chance to win, or they felt they could get him in the later rounds or even pick him up undrafted. Tom Brady is also proof that you don't have to be drafted early to be great. Here's another thing you have to consider looking at when you're evaluating a player for the quarterback position. Who were his receivers? Who was he throwing the ball to? Shedeur Sanders had the Heisman Trophy winner, wide receiver Travis Hunter, who was drafted 2nd overall in this NFL draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars, who moved up from the 5th overall pick to get him. Both of these players help elevate each other's game, but both of their positions require certain attributes teams may be concerned Shedeur doesn't have time to work on if they need a quarterback to start this 2025 season. Brady also played behind Drew Bledsoe for the entire 2000 season. Part of the evaluation process when teams research players is to talk to their college coaches. Shedeur's college coach was his dad, Deion Sanders. Teams might believe they won't be able to get an unbiased evaluation from Deion and his coaching staff. Teams have what they call top 30 visits with out-of-state prospects, and during those visits, they ask players questions about the game. We don't know what questions Shedeur Sanders was asked during his evaluation process, but we do know that NFL teams ask the prospects questions. Here's an interesting and funny story about a talented first-round draft pick in 2007. Then, Oakland Raiders, now known as the Las Vegas Raiders, drafted first pick overall quarterback JaMarcus Russell out of LSU, who happened to be black. As the story goes, they had huge expectations for JaMarcus coming out of college. The Raiders desperately needed a quarterback to step into the starting role. Before he signed his contract with the Raiders as a rookie, he performed a holdout, adding pressure to the Raiders, and in desperation, they gave this man a 6-year contract worth up to $68 million, with $31.5 million guaranteed. Adjusted for inflation in today's money, that contract would be worth $100 million with $46.6 million guaranteed right out of college. The NFL implemented the 2011 Collective Bargaining Agreement, CBA, that fixes the rookie contracts and signing bonuses based off where prospects get selected in the draft. Because of the financial terms being essentially fixed, rookies have very little leverage to demand larger contracts or more money. And I'm sure the JaMarcus Russell incident played a significant role in why the NFL felt the need to protect their financial interests when drafting players. Russell was stinking up the field so bad with his performance, the coaches were asking him, "Are you studying the playbook and watching film?" And he kept telling them, yeah. His performance was saying otherwise. And because it was so poor, the coaches were convinced there is absolutely no way that this man is studying film or reading the playbook. So what they did, they gave him a video and told him to watch it to study the plays. He was like, yeah, I got you. I'm going to watch it. What Mr. JaMarcus Russell didn't know was that they gave this man a blank tape. There was no film on it. It just said film study or something written on it, but no video. When they asked this man what he thought about the film, he started attempting to explain the plays from the blank video. They cut that man as fast as they could reply to his lie. You hear me? This is another example about why I tell you guys, you have to read. You got to read and study history, especially those things you expect to earn money from. It's no surprise that NFL teams are extremely cautious when it comes to drafting a quarterback, especially as a high pick if they have any doubts about them not living up to their expectations. It's possible that during Shedeur's visits to these teams, some red flags came up during the evaluation process. Let's say that they assumed when they watched the film or the games from Colorado where Shedeur played that they didn't have an offensive line to protect him in the pocket. Their NFL team has a line, but what they don't have is a quarterback. So during the visits, the coaches show Shedeur some film and they ask him, Shedeur, read the defense. Based off how everybody's lined up, point out where the blitz is coming from. Because they want to make sure that most of the issues they saw during the games was Colorado's offensive line that's supposed to protect Shedeur. We want to find out if it was their fault. That it wasn't Shedeur Sanders' inability to read the defense. We need to figure that out. This is an example of a legitimate reason a prospect could fall in the draft other than them being a victim of racism because they're black. Oh my gosh. We don't know if this is what happened, but it shows that another reason could be possible. Let's go back to my workbook and look into everything the team that drafted Shedeur Sanders did with their picks. Okay, I'm a Lions fan. I want to show off some of these tricks this workbook does because I work really hard on it. So let's go over here and right in the G column, we are going to type in Detroit and click the city. All right. Now, as you can see, it automatically tells you what team Detroit is. So Lions popped up. This 7 right here. This is the number of picks they had throughout the whole draft. That's what that 7 means. So the pick, it tells us what picks they had, what rounds they did not have a pick in, the name of the players, the positions, and the colleges. So I'm going to go ahead and read these off. So Detroit Lions picked 28th, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. They picked 57th, Tate Ratledge, a guard out of Georgia. 70th, Isaac Tesla, wide receiver out of Arkansas. They did not have a pick in the 4th round. You can see it right there. It says pick 0 in round 4. That's what that means. So they picked 171, Miles Frazier, a guard out of LSU. 196, Ahmed Hassanin, an edge out of Boise State. 230, Dan Jackson, a free safety, out of Georgia. And picked 244 overall, Dominic Lovett, a wide receiver out of Georgia. That is who they picked, my Detroit Lions. And I'm going to keep this hat on while we keep going through this workbook. All right, so we want to go to Cleveland Browns. There's another way to do this. We can just go to the city instead of typing in Cleveland. Okay, now we back on talking about Shedeur Sanders. So they had a total of 7 picks right there. 7 picks. They 5th pick, they picked Mason Graham, a defensive tackle out of Michigan. Pick 33, Carson Schwessinger. If I messed it up, my bad. Linebacker out of UCLA. Okay, pick 36, Quinshawn Judkins, running back out of Ohio State. Pick 67, Harold Fannin Jr., a tight end out of Bowling Green. They pick 94, Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback. So for their 5th pick, they picked Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback out of Oregon. 126 overall, Dylan Sampson, running back, Tennessee. And with their last pick number 144, they picked Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. At the time of this video, the Cleveland Browns have 5 quarterbacks on their roster. This is a strategy that teams use to get the best out of the players on their roster by creating competition. You let the players know nothing, and I mean nothing, is guaranteed. Every spot on the team is earned. The Cleveland Browns have a quarterback they were starting before he got injured. Before he got injured, named Deshaun Watson, who is also black. They have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, who they drafted 94th overall, and Shedeur Sanders. So if Shedeur is NFL level talent and he has the work ethic to go along with it, he will earn a starting role on a team and have success on the professional level. The opportunity is there. Now, on to the grand finale. Is the NFL racist? We're going to look at how many players were drafted in each round based on 3 categories: black, white, and other, and the percentage of each one in every round. Let's go to my workbook. All right, we back in the workbook. Now, that area in this section right here, let me get you right here where it says race. I had that blacked out because I didn't want you guys to get ahead of me. So let me show you what's inside this box. Go to no field. Okay. Out of 32 picks, wait a minute, 32 picks in the first round, out of 32 picks, 25 were black at 78%. 6 picks were white out of 19%. And one person classified as other at 3%. That's in the first round. So let's go to the second round. Second round also had 32 picks. 22 picks were black at 69%. 7 picks were white at 22%. And 3 picks classified as other at 9%. Let's go to the third round. Okay, in the third round, out of 38 picks, 33 picks were black at 87%. 4 picks were white at 11%. And 1 pick was classified as other at 3%. Round 4. Out of 36 picks, 29 blacks at 81%. 6 whites out of 17%. At 17%. 1 classified as other. 1 pick at 3%. Let's go to round 5 where Shedeur was drafted. They had 38 picks in round 5. 32 were black. So blacks were drafted 84% of the time in the 5th round. 6 whites at 16%, and no others were drafted in the 5th round. In the 5th round. So let's go to the 6th round. 40 picks. 23 were black at 58%. 13 were white at 33%. And 4 classified as other at 10%. And the final round, round 7. Out of 41 picks, remember we looking right over here, 41 picks, 24 blacks at 59%, 16 whites at 39%, and 1 classified as other at 2%. Now here's the thing. This area right here, this is the average over the entire draft. I wanted to say that for last. So this right here, 74% of the players selected in the 2025 NFL Draft were black. 22% were white and 4% were classified as others. How in the world is the NFL racist? We got to look at numbers, man. Stop letting, oh my gosh. All right, now I want to show you some more fun because I'm telling you, I love these workbooks. When you know how to do this, let's go back to round 5 because we know that Shedeur was drafted in round 5. This tool right here, I can go to the position. So if I put in quarterback, it'll tell me everybody in the quarterback position that was drafted in the 5th round. Shedeur was the only quarterback drafted in the 5th round. As we can see, that came up. So let's go to another position. Let's go to DT for defensive tackle. Let's go to defensive tackle. Okay, DT. These are all of the players that got drafted in the 5th round in the defensive tackle position. Now, if we want to see which ones were black, white, or other, we can select that right here. Right up in here. So how many of the defensive tackles were black? 5. 83% of the defensive tackles were black in the 5th round. 17% were white. This is cold. I'm telling you guys, when you learn how to use Microsoft Excel, you can program this to do all of this stuff. And it helps you see the numbers so much clearer. And we could just take the position out. So that's how many whites. Remember, right over here, it's telling us 6. These are the 6 white players right here. Pick 142, pick 163, pick 167, pick 168, pick 173, pick 175. It tells you the city, the team, the player's name, and their position. Now let's put it on black. These are all the black players that got drafted in the 5th round. Let's go to the round that was the highest. I think the round that was the highest was 87%. That was round 3. So we go over here to race, put in black. These are all the black players. If I double tap here, it'll widen that out. So it'll put the full city, the full name of the player. These are all the black players that were drafted in the 3rd round. And it was racist. NFL racist. Man, they crazy. I wanted to use this current event to help illustrate a few points, which are every white person is not racist, okay? And every time something doesn't go the way you want it to, it's not because you're black. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you can start educating yourself on finding out what you do and do not have control over, what the real issue is, and what you need to do to work on it, and work on it. If you're interested in learning the number one reason why everyone should read, check out this next video. God bless.